Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, going to be talking about the Draftkings Showdown slate for Week 4, Monday Night Football. We got the Rams and the 49ers playing on Monday night, and this should be a pretty decent game. Right now, this one doesn't have like a super high total. I think the total right now is sitting at just 42.5. It actually opened up at 47.5, so it's been bet down. People are betting the under on this game. But this should still be a pretty decent one, just a 1.5 point spread. 49ers are slight favorites in this game. So yeah, guys, we're gonna talk through the Showdown slate. We're gonna go kind of from top to bottom, talk about all the playable options, all the guys that I do have interest in. But before we do get started with the video, please hit that like button down below if you guys do enjoy these videos, if these DFS videos help you. Appreciate it if you guys would hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well if you have not yet. And also, if you are new here and you have not checked out PrizePicks, PrizePicks is actually the sponsor of this video. Want to give it a shout out to PrizePicks. For those of you guys that are not playing over there yet, they're basically a player prop site, DFS site more focused on player props. So you're just taking the over or the under, taking more or less on a player's projection. It is very simple, very easy to use. You do have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks. You can mix and match sports. You can make multi-sport entries. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend you guys get over there. Make sure to sign up with promo code NOAH. You'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. And if you guys do want to tail some plays that I like for Monday night for this game, I will have a separate video going up on the channel. Probably about an hour or two after this video gets posted. I will have a PrizePicks video going up talking about some plays I like on PrizePicks for Monday Night Football. So definitely check out that video if you guys want to see some plays that I'm running for this game. But let's go ahead and talk through this Showdown slate. We'll start off at the top of the player pool, where we got Cooper Kupp as the most expensive option, coming in at $12K. Cooper Kupp's obviously expensive, but he's worth it. I mean, Cooper Kupp has been probably, without a doubt, one of the best receivers in fantasy just the last year and a half or, 2 years. This season, he's been arguably, the top wide receiver in fantasy once again, just getting massive volume. He's second in the league in target share, 35% target share this season, just getting a ton of opportunity. And I know he's had a lot of success against the 49ers. For what it's worth, the 49ers have really had trouble stopping Cooper Kupp, and a lot of teams have had trouble stopping Cooper Kupp. But over their last 3 games, dating back to the playoffs, including the playoffs, I should say, Cooper Kupp has put up 11 catches for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns, 7 catches for 118 yards and a touchdown, and 11 catches for 122 yards. Those are his last 3 games against the 49ers. Now, this 49ers secondary is pretty solid, and they've done a pretty good job just kind of stopping opposing wide receivers. They're actually allowing the 3rd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers this season. But Cooper Kupp's not your average wide receiver. He's going to get massive volume. We know Matthew Stafford loves to target Cooper Kupp, so I think Kupp's probably one of the top plays on the Showdown slate. If you can find a way to fit him, he's definitely a guy you probably want to be paying up for. We'll talk about the quarterbacks next, though. You got Matthew Stafford coming in at $10,600. You got Jimmy Garoppolo coming in at $10K. Neither one of these quarterbacks have been great for fantasy this season. Stafford had that decent game in Week 2 against Atlanta, but last week was really disappointing against Arizona, just 10 DraftKings points. Even in a game against Buffalo where they were playing from behind and Stafford threw the ball 40+ times, he only scored 10 DraftKings points in that game. Stafford has not looked nearly as good this season as he did last season. His fantasy numbers are not nearly as good either. But this is still a pretty good Rams offense. He has plenty of weapons in this offense. The Rams, they do seem kind of inclined to just run the ball as much as they can. I don't know why, but Sean McVay just loves to run the ball a ton. But Stafford's still a guy that does offer some upside. And on these Showdown slates, quarterbacks are normally always going to be pretty good plays, especially for cash games. If you play cash games on Showdown slates, you almost always want to play at least one of, if not both of the quarterbacks. I think for cash games, Stafford is a very safe, high floor option. In tournaments, I still think he's someone you can go to. It's really rare that you don't see either quarterback in the winning lineup. So normally I'm going to want to play at least one of the 2 quarterbacks. Stafford is definitely the one that I do prefer in this game. Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, he's never been a guy that offers much fantasy upside. So far this season in the 2 games he's played, obviously the Seattle game, he didn't play the full game, but still, just 16 DraftKings points. Last week against Denver, just 10 DraftKings points. The 49ers, I mean, they're another team that just wants to run the ball as much as possible. There will be times when they get in high-scoring games, or maybe they start, they're playing from behind and Jimmy G has to throw. But normally, Jimmy G is not going to be a guy that throws the ball like 40 times. I mean, at most, he's probably going to throw like 30 passes. And you just got to hope that he's really efficient. You got to hope that he throws for like 250 yards and multiple touchdowns, which he can on any given week. But I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is a priority for me. And normally I want to play both quarterbacks, but I don't think I'm going to be forcing Jimmy G into lineups on this slate. If he makes some lineups, I'm fine with that. But I don't expect him to be like, one of my top owned plays on this slate. I definitely, if I'm going to play a quarterback, like if I'm playing one lineup on the Showdown slate, I probably would play Stafford. Don't know if I would play Garoppolo with Stafford. The quarterbacks are always safe, high floor options, but Stafford is the QB that I do prefer in this game. I'm not forcing Jimmy Garoppolo into a ton of lineups here. But then you have Deebo Samuel at 10,400, and Deebo Samuel continues to be utilized in a ton of ways for this 49ers offense. His receiving numbers have not been like great, but they still use him a lot in the running game, and especially without Eli Mitchell, without Davis Price. This 49ers team, I mean, they don't have any other backups, like any other backup running backs behind Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson's been like kind of close to an every down running back, and Deebo Samuel's been getting plenty of opportunity as well in the running game. He's probably going to see, anywhere from like 6 to 8 targets, and he's probably going to get some carries as well. He's been very efficient as a runner. He's a guy that they just use a ton in different ways. They can move him all around the field. I think he's definitely a high floor play here. And we obviously know that Deebo offers a big ceiling. If he can have one of those games where he gets into the end zone multiple times, I mean, no one would be surprised if Deebo Samuel was like the highest scoring player on the slate. And, if anyone can outscore Cooper Kupp, I think it probably would be Deebo Samuel. So in tournaments, I'm definitely looking at Deebo Samuel as a top option. I still think Kupp projects better, and I think Kupp's just a better play in general, especially like, for cash games. I think paying up for Cooper Kupp's probably what you want to do. But I would definitely have Deebo Samuel in my tournament player pool, and if I was playing multiple lineups on this slate, he would for sure make some lineups for me. Nothing really negative to say about Deebo Samuel. I don't love the matchup, but against this Rams team, they might put Jalen Ramsey on Samuel, but I want to say that Jalen Ramsey has not been shadowing as much as he used to, so he might actually be able to avoid Jalen Ramsey here. I think Samuel's firmly in play here. Then we can look at some of these running backs. We got Jeff Wilson at 8,200. We got Cam Akers at 7K. Darrell Henderson at 6,800. The Rams running back situation is kind of a tough one, but talking about Jeff Wilson, we know Jeff Wilson is going to get a ton of opportunity. Last week he saw 15 touches. The week before that he saw 20 touches. His snap share has been really, really solid. I mean, last week Jeff Wilson played on 73% of the snaps. They're clear number one running back right now. Without Eli Mitchell and Davis Price, Jeff Wilson's going to be the guy that they really lean on. And we know the 49ers want to run the ball as much as possible, so the volume is going to be there for Jeff Wilson. I do worry a little bit about, if the 49ers, like if this game goes south and let's say the Rams get off to like a big lead or something, you can maybe see Jeff Wilson kind of scripted out of the game a little bit. He's not a guy that they really involve in the passing game a ton. He has been getting some targets lately, but he's not a running back that normally gets like 7-8 targets, which is definitely the concern here. I do worry about, if game script goes south, will Wilson still be involved? That's the one negative, but man, like if the 49ers keep this game close or if they're playing with a lead, they're just going to give the ball to Jeff Wilson as much as possible. And I want to say, the Rams, they're pretty solid against the run. So far this season, I know they have been one of the better teams defending the run. They've only allowed, let's see, where are they at? In terms of rushing yards allowed to opposing running backs, the Rams have only allowed 201 rushing yards to running backs this season, which is towards the bottom of the league. So it's not like the best matchup by any means, but I think you're just kind of banking on the volume here from Jeff Wilson. He's their clear lead back. He's going to get the opportunity. And at 8,200, that puts him in play on the Showdown slate. Now, the Rams running backs, this is a tough situation because last week it was pretty much a dead even split in terms of snaps played. Both Darrell Henderson and Cooper Kupp played on the exact same amount of snaps last week. 24 snaps for Darrell Henderson, 24 snaps for Cam Akers. However, Cam Akers saw much more touches. He saw 12 touches last week, whereas Darrell Henderson only got 4 touches. He had 4 carries and 1 target. So this is a really tricky situation. Week 1, it looked like Darrell Henderson was going to be the clear lead back. He played on way more snaps. Cam Akers was barely involved in week 1. And now the last 2 weeks, we've seen Cam Akers more involved. We've seen Cam Akers actually kind of be the lead back. And, last week he did, or week 2 he did, or actually week 2, Darrell Henderson outsnapped Cam Akers. And then last week, it was a 50-50 split. I really don't know what to do with the Rams running backs. I think there's a chance that one of these guys has a good game. Like if you get hot and they get into the end zone, like if they get a goal line touchdown, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the Rams RBs put up like 15 Draftkings points. But it's going to be a timeshare between these two. They're both priced almost exactly the same, so you're just kind of I think you're just kind of picking and choosing here. You're just kind of hoping to hit the right one. It'll be interesting to see like when projections come out and when ownership projections come out, if these guys are going to be, if one of them is going to be really, if there's going to be a drastic, gap in ownership between the two, I would just play whichever one's lower owned, just because I think they project so closely. But if they're going to be very similarly owned and they project very similarly, I don't have much of a take when it comes to the Rams running backs. And I hate to come on here and say that, but like I just don't know. I mean, it's a 50-50 split. My best guess is they both get like 10 to 12 touches, but if one of them's really hot and running the ball well, you can maybe see them kind of ride the hot hand. Tough situation there with the Rams running backs. For the most part, I'm going to be avoiding this backfield. And if one of these guys has a big game, then so be it. But I don't think I'm going to have a ton of exposure to either Rams running back. I just don't love them at their price tags. I think there's guys that are cheaper that I'd rather go to. I'd rather pay up and try and get to like Jeff Wilson or even go to a guy like Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk, he has not had any great games this year, but he's been involved. I mean, he's been getting decent amount of targets. He's seen 19 targets through 3 games, so he's averaging just over 6 targets per game, and he's going to be an every down wide receiver. Week 1, Brandon Ayuk played almost every single snap, 99% of the snaps. Last 2 weeks, 88 and 89% of the snaps. He's going to be on the field a ton. We know the 49ers don't like to throw the ball a ton, so like I don't think Ayuk's going to get like 12, 13 targets, but Jimmy G's got to throw the ball to somebody, and I think when Jimmy G does throw the ball, he's going to be looking for Ayuk, he's going to be looking for Debo, and he's probably going to be looking for George Kittle as well. Those are the 3 guys you really expect to soak up a lot of the targets in this 49ers offense. At 7,600, like I think Ayuk is priced correctly, but because he's going to be an every down wide receiver and he's going to be on the field for almost every snap, he's still in play for me on the Showdown slate, and I don't think he's a guy that like offers a ton of upside, but I think he's still viable at 7,600. I would take him over the Rams running backs if I had to choose between like that group. In general, I think the best play in this mid-range is probably Jeff Wilson. He's the guy that I feel the best about, but I think Ayuk's fine at 7,600. I don't have a strong take on him. And the tight ends I do want to talk about. I think both tight ends are really, really good options in this game. You got George Kittle at 6,600, and you got Tyler Higbee coming in at 5,200. We'll start off with Kittle at his price tag of 6,600. First game back for George Kittle last week against Denver. He did see 5 targets. Obviously not usage that we would love to see. He wasn't involved as much as I would like, but he did play on a good amount of snaps, I'm pretty sure. Last week, George Kittle did play on 91% of the snaps, so he's back to pretty much being an every down tight end. I was a little bit worried last week if they would like ease him back in, but he played 91% of the snaps last week, so he got a full workload. He didn't get targeted a ton, and we've seen George Kittle kind of, he's not been as valuable of a tight end for fantasy, at least, as he has been in previous seasons. I know last year he kind of had a down year for fantasy, but George Kittle, in my opinion, is still one of the best tight ends in the league. Even though the 49ers just love using him as a blocker, he's still one of the best receiving tight ends, and when the 49ers do throw the ball, you do expect Kittle to get some opportunity. He's a little bit of a riskier play. I would normally say at 6,600, like if this was 2 years ago and George Kittle was 6,600, I would think he'd be like massively owned. I'll be interested to see what his ownership is on this slate. I still do like Kittle quite a bit. I think he still does have that big time upside. He's always a threat to score when they get near the red zone. He still offers that that explosive ability, that potential to get multiple touchdowns. And he's only 6,600. He's not super expensive. So I'm definitely interested in George Kittle. I also like Tyler Higbee quite a bit. I think Tyler Higbee's just way too cheap for what his role has been so far in this Rams offense. He's been an every down tight end, very similar to George Kittle. Last 3 games, Tyler Higbee has played on 94, 98, and 94% of the snaps. He's going to be on the field for almost every single snap. He's been getting a ton of targets. I'm pretty sure he's like towards the top of the league in terms of targets for tight ends. I think only Mark Andrews and I can't remember who else, but I think only Mark Andrews and someone else has more targets, more tight end targets than Higbee this season. Higbee's seen 24 targets through 4 games, so he's averaging, or 3 games, he's averaging 8 targets per game, got a very good target share. 5,200 is really cheap for a guy that's going to be on the field for almost every single snap and is getting targeted as much as Higbee is. Now, does Higbee continue to see an average of 8 targets per game the rest of the season? Probably not. I would think there's going to be a little bit of regression there. I know he didn't average anywhere near 8 targets per game last season, but he's going to be on the field a ton. He's fairly cheap. We don't have a ton of great value on the Showdown slate, so I definitely think at this price tag, Higbee is an option that offers plenty of upside, and I think he's one of the better values in general. Now, this matchup is really tough. So far this season, the 49ers have been like the best team in the league, stopping opposing tight ends. They're allowing the fewest fantasy points to tight ends this season, the fewest fewest receptions, fewest receiving yards. Like, they've been really good against the tight end position, but you're just kind of banking on the volume from Higbee. You're banking on him being just an every down tight end. He's going to be on the field for almost every snap. That the opportunity is at least going to be there, even though it is kind of a tougher matchup. The price tag as well is what makes this play so appealing too. So I do like both tight ends in this game, and I definitely think Higbee's one of the better value plays. And then we'll talk about Allen Robinson in this mid-range too, 6,200. Allen Robinson has been a big disappointment this season. A lot of people, including myself, were pretty high on Allen Robinson. Thought, getting in a good Rams offense, having Matthew Stafford as his quarterback, this was going to be like a big breakout year for Allen Robinson. And it could be. There's still plenty of season left. But so far through 3 games, Allen Robinson has definitely not lived up to the hype. He's not really been getting a ton of opportunity. He's only seen 12 targets through 3 games. Just doesn't have, he's not getting the targets, the volume that you would like to see. He's still on the field a ton, which I guess is a positive. He is the clear wide receiver 2 for the Rams right now. I mean, he's playing like almost every single snap right behind Cooper Kupp. 97, 92, 92% of the snaps so far through 3 games for Robinson. He's going to be out there. He's going to be running routes. He just hasn't been able to get open and get targets. There'll be a game soon, I think, where Robinson does pop off and score like 2 touchdowns, and maybe it could be tonight. This matchup is kind of tough. I know the 49ers have been pretty stout defensively against opposing wideouts, but Robinson's playable. I don't love him. I don't hate him. On a 1-game slate, he is definitely someone you can roster. He'll be in my tournament player pool for sure, but in a single entry lineup or for cash games, I don't think Robinson would make my pool. I would rather go to Kittle or just drop down to Higbee. But then talking about some of the value on this slate, this is where it gets tricky because this is one of those slates that doesn't really offer a ton of value. You got Ben Skoranek at 4,400, who's actually been decently involved in this Rams offense so far this season. He's seen 13 targets through 3 games, and he's been a guy that's been on the field a ton. He's been their clear wide receiver 3, and the Rams are running a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, so Skoranek does get on the field a lot. 88% of the snaps week 1, 87% week 2, and then 85% last week. So he's going to be on the field for 80+% of the snaps. I doubt he's going to see more than 5 to 6 targets, but he's only 4,400. We kind of need to find some value somewhere. So if you want to play Skoranek and just hope that he sees 5 to 6 targets, maybe gets into the end zone, I don't hate doing that. I think Skoranek definitely is in play as a value option. Normally, I think receivers offer more upside than kickers. So if you're looking for upside, I think Skoranek's probably a better play than the kickers. If you're looking for that safety, if you just want a guy that can get you 6 to 8 points, that's definitely where the kickers come into play. And I think on this slate, the kickers do look like solid values. I don't have much analysis to give on kickers, but normally on these type of slates where the value is pretty gross, these are going to be the slates that kickers usually stand out. And I know we have seen recently on some showdown slates, we've seen kickers actually be in the winning lineup at captain. We've seen both kickers make the winning lineup. I normally don't play both kickers in one lineup just because it usually is hard for both kickers to make the winning lineup. But if a lot of these value plays down here, a lot of these guys don't do much, which I don't think many of these receivers or backup tight ends are going to do much, that if the kickers both put up 8 to 10 points, they could be the 2 best value plays on this slate. So I'm definitely fine playing the kickers here. I think the kickers look like 2 of the better value plays. The defenses I don't love here. I mean, the 49ers defense at home, I think is fine, but I tend to avoid defenses on showdown slates. Defenses always tend to be over-owned. You're kind of banking on a defensive touchdown, or you're banking on just a lot of sacks and some turnovers. Defense is always tough to give a hard take on. It's just kind of it's your preference. I personally just don't really ever play the defenses on showdown, and normally the defenses don't make the winning lineup unless there's a pick 6 or a fluke defensive touchdown, which is something you just can't predict. No one can predict when a defensive touchdown is going to happen. But the Rams, I mean, they have a really good defensive line. Aaron Donald's always getting pressure on the quarterback, so maybe Aaron Donald gets some pressure on Jimmy G, and Jimmy G gets sacked and fumbles and scoop and score. That could happen. But I'm personally not going to be playing the defenses here. I'll just let other people do that, and hopefully neither defense has a pick 6 or a scoop and score, or gets a defensive touchdown. If that doesn't happen, then I'm pretty confident that neither defense will make the winning lineup. But then talking about these punt wide receivers and cheap options, there's God, there's not much down here. Powell, Brandon Powell, like he's barely been playing for the Rams. I mean, he's kind of like their wide receiver 4, but he played like 6 snaps last week. Yeah, he played on 13% of the snaps. He played 6 total snaps. He saw 3 targets. He's just like a dart throw at best. I don't really have much confidence in Powell. He'll probably play like 10 snaps, maybe 5 to 10 snaps, if that. You just got to hope that he like catches a long pass or he catches a touchdown. Ray McLeod, I mean, he's going to be on the field for, probably like, 10 to 20% of the snaps. Last week, Ray McLeod played on 18% of the snaps last week. He saw 1 target. Like, there's nothing down here that I'm loving. I think the one guy that does stand out as a decent punt option is Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings hasn't really done anything this season. He did have, a decent week 1 where he saw 6 targets, 4 catches, 62 yards. But he has been on the field a good amount, which I think is something that we can at least bank on. So far this season, in their 3 games, Juwan Jennings has been the clear wide receiver 3 for the 49ers. He's played 60%, 46%, and 46% of the snaps. So he'll probably be on the field for anywhere between like 45 to 60% of the snaps. He'll probably see at least a couple targets, I would assume. At $2,000, he won't need much to pay off the salary. Like if Juwan Jennings gets 4 targets, 2 catches for 30 yards, if he scores 5 Draftkings points, he might make the optimal lineup depending on what the other value plays do. So like if I am going to punt, if I'm looking for a guy below the kickers, if I'm looking for a punt play down here, I think Juwan Jennings is the best option. The rest of these guys are just like touchdown or bust. I mean, they're pretty much all touchdown or bust, but I think Jennings is the one I'm at least the most confident in just because he's going to be on the field the most. Even a guy like Kyle Juszczyk could maybe be viable. Juszczyk is going to be on the field a decent amount. He's a guy that they'll use like in blocking situations. He's a guy that they'll use sometimes near the goal line. I mean, last week, Kyle Juszczyk, let's see how many snaps he played. He played on 35 snaps last week. He didn't really do anything. He just got 1 catch for 24 yards. But if he's going to be on the field that much and potentially running some routes, then at $1,000, like if he gets just 1 or 2 catches or if he gets into the end zone somehow, like he did have a 1-yard touchdown run in week 2. If you get a goal line touchdown, like that might be all that you need from Juszczyk to be worth rostering. Again, just a punt play, nothing I feel super confident in, but he's at least a playable option down here. But I think on this slate, the value is pretty gross. I think the best value plays are probably, if you consider Tyler Higbee a value, I think he's one of the best values. But then Skoranek and the kickers, I think, are also value plays you can consider. But that's what I'm liking for this Showdown slate, guys. I think we kind of talked about the whole player pool, kind of top to bottom, all the playable options. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, I appreciate you guys checking out these Showdown videos every week. Hit that like button if you do enjoy. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, make sure to check out PrizePicks as well. If you guys have not signed up for PrizePicks yet, this is a sponsor of this video. You can sign up, use promo code NOAH. When you do sign up with my promo code, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. And if you guys do want to know some plays that I like on PrizePicks for this Monday night game, I will have a separate video going out on the channel, probably an hour or 2 after this video goes up. I'll be talking through some plays I like for Monday night. Check that video out if you are interested. But definitely sign up for PrizePicks if you have not yet, and make sure to use promo code NOAH so that way you get that deposit bonus when you sign up. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks as always for watching these videos, supporting the channel. Appreciate you guys a ton. Best of luck, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.